Good morning, students. This is your Shanghita ma'am here. I welcome all of you in my literature class today. Today we will read the Sermon at Benares, written by Betty Renshaw. Betty Renshaw was born on 2nd October 1921 and died on 30th of April 1999 at the age of 77. She resided with her family in Erie County, Pennsylvania. Before we start reading the chapter, let me tell you what is the meaning of sermon. Sermon is a religious talk delivered by a prophet or a saint. Here we have the journey of Gautama Buddha from princehood to his saintly life. It is the mystery of life and death that has always baffled us. Whenever we lose someone or our near and dear ones, we are in grief. This lesson reminds us that death is the ultimate truth. Every creature who is born must die one day, and it is the ultimate truth of our existence. This lesson is also about the early life of Gautama Buddha and his first sermon preached at Benares. A woman who had lost her son in grief went to Buddha and pleaded him to bring his son back to life. So let us read the lesson and find out how Buddha taught the lady that death was inevitable. You cannot escape death. So let us start reading the text. It is in your first flight book, page number 133. Gautama Buddha was born in 563 BC. That means before Christ. BC means began life as a prince named Siddhartha Gautama in northern India. So when Gautam Buddha was born in 563 BC, his name was Siddhartha Gautama and he was born in northern India. At 12, when he was 12 years old, at that time he was sent away for schooling in the Hindu sacred scriptures, and for 4 years, after 4 years he returned home. After his learning got completed, he returned home, and after that he was married to a princess. They had a son and lived for 10 years as a befitted royalty. So he enjoyed the royalty, the kingly life, the princely life of a king, and he enjoyed this life for 10 years. You all know that the kings were always shielded. Shielded means protected from all the unpleasant experiences of the world, from all the sufferings of the world, until the prince met somebody. So the king was protected from all the sufferings of the world. One day he was out there hunting and he saw something. What was it? When he was hunting, he saw a sick man. After that, an aged man. And after that, a funeral procession of a dead body. And finally, a monk, a holy or a saint, begging for alms. These are the 4 sights that changed the life of Gautama Buddha forever. These experiences acted as an eye-opener for him, and thus he left all the royalty behind, all the pleasures of the kingly life behind, to seek a higher sense of spiritual knowledge in search of enlightenment. He wandered, he loitered about for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree where he vowed, that means he promised to stay until the enlightenment came. What is the meaning of enlightenment? The meaning is already written in your book. A state of high spiritual knowledge where he doesn't feel any pain in any existential pain or any grief, any mortal grief. After the enlightenment came after 7 days. So he renamed the tree as the Bodhi tree. Bodhi means bodh or wisdom. So the wisdom came when he was sitting under the tree. So he named the tree Bodhi tree as Bodhi tree. And he began to teach and share his new understandings. At that point, he became known as the Buddha. What does Buddha mean? The awakened or the enlightened, whose soul is being awakened, whose soul is being enlightened. So he was renamed as Buddha. The Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benares, most holy of the dipping places on the river Ganges. It is one of the holiest places on earth beside river Ganges. That sermon has been preserved and is given here. It reflects the Buddha's wisdom about one inscrutable kind of suffering. What is the meaning of inscrutable? It means something which cannot be understood. So the first sermon he gave was preserved and is famous till date. It is given below as well, that it gives a new perspective to human beings' unending sufferings. He thinks that he who seeks peace, one who is searching for peace, should learn to rise above lamentation, grief, complaint. This is the only way to become composed and obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all such circumstances will be free from sorrow and be blessed with calm and peace of mind. Through his sermon, he began to teach and spread his message of wisdom and truth. Here Buddha tells us about the universality of death, which is inevitable and cannot be escaped. Kisa Gautami had an only son and he died. In her grief, she carried the dead child to her all neighbors, asking them for medicine. And the people said she has lost her senses, she has become mad, because the boy is already dead. So there is no medicine for that. At length, Kisa Gautami met a man who told her that I cannot give thee medicine. I cannot give you. Thee means medicine. It is an archaic word, old English word. Thee means you. I cannot give you any medicine for your child, but I know a physician who can. And the girl said, Pray tell me, sir. Please tell me, sir. Who is it? And the man replied, Please go to Shakyamuni, the Buddha. Shakyamuni is the another name of Lord Buddha. Kisa Gautami repaired to the Buddha and cried, Lord and Master, give me the medicine that will cure my boy, that will bring back my boy again to this world. I want my son to be alive again. The Buddha answered, I want a handful of mustard seed. And when the girl in her joy promised to bring that, the Buddha added, the mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has ever lost a child, husband, parent, or a friend. That means you have to bring a handful of mustard seeds from a house where nobody has ever died. You have to bring the mustard seeds from that house only. Then only I'll be able to bring the life of your dead child. Bring back the life of your dead child. Poor Kesa Gautami now went from house to house, and the people pitied her. They were sympathized with her. They were feeling very sympathetic for her and said, here is master seed, take it. But when she asked, did a son or a daughter or a father or mother die in your family? They answered her, alas, the living are few, but the dead are many. Do not remind us of our deepest grief. But there was not a single family, single house where nobody has ever died. All the families of the neighborhood, they have experienced death in the family. So all the hopes were lost for Kesa Gautami. And thus, in extreme anguish, in extreme sadness, pain, and tiredness, she found herself in a place to ponder at the edge of the road. So she was being tired, sitting by the wayside and she was watching the lights of the city. And the lights of the city, they were blinking, and she was observing them till there were just darkness all around. She saw that the lights of the cities, these are blinking, and after that the lights were slowly extinguished again, and after that there is darkness everywhere. Thus Kisa Gautami realized that these lives, our lives also flicker up for some time, and after that they are extinguished again, just like the life of a human being. So our life is very similar to these lights. We all are born, but we will die one day. Like these lights, everything will be dark at the end. So it is the ultimate truth of life. She understood the reality. So she said to herself, how selfish am I in my grief. Death is common to all. Yet in this valley of desolation, there is a path that leads him to immortality, who has surrendered all his selfishness. She understood that there is desolation or sorrow everywhere in this world. But we have to look beyond all our selfishness, all our sorrows and griefs. We have to look beyond that. We have to surrender ourselves. So she went back to Gautama Buddha, and Buddha said, the life of the mortals in this world is troubled and brief and combined with pain. For there is not any means by which those that have been born can avoid dying. If you are born, then you must die one day. There is no escape from that. Death is common for all the creatures of the world. You cannot escape death. Death is common to all. After reaching old age, there is death. Of such a nature are living beings. This is the nature of the living beings. When you grow old, after that you will die. Buddha compared the life of human beings to the ripe fruits. According to him, the life of human beings are troubled because they have not made peace with the fact that one who is born must rest eternally. That means must die one day. There is no way a living being can avoid death. Just like a ripe fruit is bound to fall down on the ground, an aged mortal is bound to die, and you cannot escape that. And this is the ultimate truth of life. So, we should better accept it calmly. Then again, Lord Buddha has given another example of the earthen vessels. Just like all the earthen vessels made by the potter end in being broken, so is the life of mortals, both young and adult, both those who are fools and those who are wise, all fall into the power of death. Whether you are powerful, whether you are rich or poor, human being or an animal, death is common to all. Whether you are powerful, whether you are a powerless person, death is common. All are subject to death. You cannot escape death. If you are born, then you must die one day. Of those who overcome by death depart from life. A father cannot save his son, nor kinsmen their relations. Mark, while relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply, one by one mortals are carried off, like an ox that is laid to the slaughter. So the world is afflicted with death and decay, therefore the wise do not grieve, knowing the terms of the world. Everyone grieves when someone's dear dies, near and dear one dies. But grieving cannot bring the dead back to life. So death and sufferings are unavoidable. The world is full of suffering, disease, or pain, and this is the ultimate truth of life. So, the wise, those whose souls are awakened, enlightened, they do not grieve, they do not become sad, because this is the terms of the world, this is the truth of the world, this is the ultimate truth of life, that our life is full of suffering, disease, and pain. So, we should not grieve over it. We should not become sad over it. Not from weeping, nor from grieving will anyone obtain peace of mind. So, you will not get peace of your mind by grieving, by lamenting, by crying out of pain. On the contrary, just the opposite, his pain will be the greater and his body will suffer. He will make himself sick and pale. Yet the dead are not saved by the lamentation. Still, you cannot save any of your near and dear ones by crying, by lamenting, by giving yourself pain. You cannot save that man. You cannot bring his life back. He who seeks peace should draw out the arrow of lamentation and complain and grief. He who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. So I have already mentioned that the wise people, they do not grieve as they know the ultimate truth of life. Weeping doesn't bring peace of mind. On the other hand, a person's pain becomes greater by grieving, by lamenting. His body also suffers. But that cannot bring the dead person. That cannot bring back the dead person. You cannot save a human being by lamenting. Through lamentation, nobody can be saved. One who has learned to control his grief shall have the peace of mind. That person is blessed who has learned to overcome his sorrow. Weeping and lamenting, they don't bring any gain. It rather spoils one's health and gives more pain. If only you take out the arrow of lamentation and get composed, get calmness, you will get the peace of mind ultimately. So, the message of this famous sermon delivered by Buddha is that to attain peace, human beings must understand and accept that death is a part and parcel of life, and human beings, must not grieve over it, must not lament over it. Life and death are inseparable, and man must be rational and accept this universal truth rather than grieve over it. The terms of life given to human beings should be clearly accepted by them. Otherwise, man will have to pass a phase of life in lamenting. So, just like Kisa Gautami, we should not be so selfish for thinking only about our own grief, as we must remember that death is an unavoidable phenomenon. Just like the wayside lights, our life is also enlightened for some time only. But very soon it will be submerged in the darkness of death. So we should rise above all our selfish thoughts and spread kindness all around us. So I hope, students, you have understood the text. Thank you for watching.